Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm not usually accused of being too quiet, so if you get in the back, let me know. But I want to thank Chairwoman Connie Beard and the party for the opportunity to participate in this program here today. I want to thank all of you for coming out on this cold, snowy morning. There is nothing like January in Illinois. And good morning to Judge Barnes and Mr. State's Attorney Knapp. The topic for today is vital. And we can't even begin to scratch the surface in the 8 minutes that were allotted here today, but we can use it as a starting point for a dialogue as Republicans and as stewards of our community. So what is the role of the judiciary in our community? As a starting point, we know from basic civics that the judiciary is a separate and equal branch of our system of government. It is distinct and separate from both the executive and the legislative branches. As such, we can look at the mission statement for the Illinois Judicial Branch for some broad guidance on the role of our courts in our states and in our community. And in Illinois, that mission is to protect the rights and liberties of all by providing equal access to justice, resolving disputes, and upholding the rule of law pursuant to the duties entrusted to us by the Illinois Constitution. There's a lot of meaning and responsibility in that one sentence. But what does it mean more specifically for us in the community? I have learned in my 16 years of trial practice and my almost 6 years on the bench that those concepts mean different things to different people. And it's the court's role to balance those interests. The protection of the rights and liberties of all means something different to a victim of a crime than it does to a perpetrator of a crime. Equal access to justice looks different to somebody who can't afford an attorney than it does to someone who has a physical disability or a language barrier. Resolving disputes looks different to a family in crisis and children than it does to a property dispute between neighbors. It looks different to a landlord than it does to a tenant in eviction proceedings. And all of these concepts become even more murky through the filter of addiction and or mental illness that has become so prevalent in our communities and in all of our courtrooms. And then it's the last clause of the mission statement requiring then courts to uphold the rule of law pursuant to the Illinois Constitution that places that duty on the courts to make fair and balanced decisions each day while balancing those competing interests. So we as Republicans, we have a core value of law and order. Oftentimes that is associated only with crime and sentencing issues, what our state's attorney works through, what our criminal division works through. And it is vital, and I agree with what our state's attorney has talked about as to the independence of the judiciary. And we most assuredly must support our key partners in the community, provide the resources needed to our law enforcement partners to be able to address crime justly and sentence those found guilty. But I want to talk a little bit more about law and order in a broader sense. And that context of law and order has an umbrella and impacts all facets of our judicial system. And that includes our family courts, our civil courts. So how do we as a judiciary and as a community address the drug addiction and mental health issues we face in our communities in order to help serve law and order, to have less defendants come into our criminal justice system? So I only have one example of many of how the courts and the community partner for the benefit and safety of all of us. For those of you who may not know, in 2020, I took over as the presiding judge of the mental health court called Recovery Court from our prestigious Judge Bill Yoder, who had served for 5 years. And certainly big shoes to fill. So Recovery Court is a problem-solving court. And in mine is a mental health court where defendants who have been charged criminally, but yet there is found a connection to the offense for which they are charged and their mental health, they may participate in Recovery Court and receive intense and structured treatment and court-supervised probation in lieu of prison. We have a team that is community-based. It consists of the judge, which is myself in this instance, a representative from the Public Defender's Office. Judge Barnes was very active in our problem-solving courts as public defender. The state's attorney's office is involved. Probation, representatives from Chestnut Family Health Services, our Center for Human Services, the jail. We have an officer from Normal Police Department and an officer from Bloomington Police Department. We meet weekly to create a treatment plan for each participant and determine their level of compliance. Those participants then come to court on a weekly basis and face the judge. It is there that they receive a reward as a sanction for their compliance. A reward could potentially be a prize from our reward cabinet. It could be verbal praise. It could be a gift card to McDonald's. If they receive a violation, that may include something as little as they have to write a paper, they have to attend additional meetings, and there can be jail sanctions for significant violations. Recovery Court works in tandem with our drug court and our Veterans Court, which, as an aside, I have to say, our Veterans Court is a circuit-wide program that helps those who have served our country receive services and addresses their mental health and addiction issues that often stem from the PTSD and other resulting barriers from their service to our country. But that's an aside. So since June of 2020, and despite all of the challenges of COVID, we have had 11 clients graduate from our mental health court. Only one has been rearrested on new charges. The program overall, in its 10 years of existence, has a 47% graduation rate, which means they're discharged from probation, and we have graduation ceremonies. I invite you all to attend one. They're open to the public, and they are probably some of the most amazing opportunities to see our judiciary and our community work together. This is a significant win for our community and cost savings to our community. As part of these courts, there's high expectations, but there's also high rewards for both our community and the participants. So it is in this way over the last decade that we have been successful in partnering with our community to address those very mental health and addiction issues. And I think this partnership is in line with the greater mission of our Republican-led county board, which is to create a trauma-informed community, which includes county programs such as the FUSE program and the triage program. I won't go into the details of those programs, I think my time is close. But it gives law enforcement officers other options in the community when dealing and engaging with someone with mental health issues other than taking them to jail. As we face the challenges of law enforcement officers fleeing our community and our state, and the implication of no cash bonds because of the implications of the Safety Act that Don Knapp talked about, the partnership with the community and the judiciary becomes that much more important. We have to do more with less. It means more people are likely to be held in our jail at taxpayer expense or are out in the community with little or no supervision, which means we really need more law enforcement. We need more resources, more options for the courts to keep our community safe, and we need to do that with less. I read a quote recently, an interview from Dr. Bertha Madras. She was part of the Trump administration's opioid commission. And she said in a recent interview, we can't treat our way out of this, we can't arrest our way out of this, we can't prevent our way out of this. We have to do all three. We have to reduce the supply, and we have to reduce the demand. And so in those ways, and countless other ways, I think these challenging issues, we have to address the community by arresting those who need to be arrested, by treating those who need to be treated, and by preventing as much as we can from as young an age as possible. that is where I see that the leadership in the judiciary can come to the table on a continuing basis to protect our families and children and maintain our core value as Republicans of law and order. I thank you for your time this morning.